Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com. I'm here with State Senator Steve Gooch from the 51st District. Senator Gooch is now the third-ranking Republican, the majority whip in the Senate, so we're going to speak to him a couple minutes. Senator Gooch, I appreciate you sitting down with me. I know you've got to get back into meetings, sessions starting in a couple days, and I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes. We'll go straight to it. What is the position, or what is the third-ranking majority whip, Republican whip in the Senate?
Well, the bottom line is you have to learn to count to 29, Brian. It takes 29 votes down here to pass a bill, so that's the only thing you have to be able to do as a whip is count to 29. I say that in a joking way, but our job is to help educate our members, our caucus members, on what the issues are in the bills and understand amendments that may be coming from either the Republican Party or the minority party. The Democrats a lot of times will throw an amendment on the floor to try to throw what we call a poison pill into the bill. So if we're not real careful, we don't keep our members attentive to what's going on here in the session, it gets really busy and real exciting at times. Then a Democrat could throw an amendment up on the wall there, and if we're not careful, some of our members may vote for it and not mean to. So my job is to keep everybody alert, educate them on what the issues are in the bills that are coming to the floor, and also once we're in session, keep them alert as to what may be coming from the opposition party as
well. Tell our viewers briefly what your position has been with the Transportation Committee here in the state of Georgia.
Well, for the last 2 years, I've chaired transportation in the Senate, which is a very important position. I take it very seriously. I was on the DOT board prior to my election to the Senate 4 years ago, and I was a Soule County Commissioner in Lumpkin County, where I dealt with a lot of roads and bridges and issues. So I think my experience helped get us to where we are right now. We went around the state all summer. We were up in Blue Ridge and in Rome and North Georgia back in the fall, talking about issues that are important to Georgia, and that is jobs and quality of life and transportation. And the only way we're going to get people moving in Georgia and even here in Atlanta especially with congestion is to look for ways to use our money that we have, better utilize our existing resources, but look for other resources as well. And that's been a very big topic this summer and this fall, and it's one that we expect to start talking about next week whenever the session opens.
Let's stay on transportation. You got to get back to meetings. I just left a meeting with Speaker Ralston, pre-legislative meeting. Transportation continued to come up. He was directly asked about raising revenue. I'm going to ask you directly because you are the one that some of the citizen tax groups, they're putting your picture on some things. I guess direct gas tax on the table, off the table. And I'm going to say I want you to answer before I tell you that in the last meeting, he did not say it was on the table, but the speaker, when pressed, did not say anything was off the table.
Well, now when you say is gas tax on the table, or do you say
transportation bill?
All right, here's the bottom line. The report that was issued December 31st identified the needs of Georgia, not just Atlanta, but all over Georgia. Monies that are needed to fix existing roads and bridges. That would be Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens County as much as it is Fulton, DeKalb, or DeKalb. South Georgia, North Georgia, all 159 counties in Georgia have needs. We have bridges that haven't been maintained and repaired. Some of them are 50 and 60 years old. Some of them, the weight limits have been decreased every few years over the last 20 years to where you can't drive a tractor and trailer across them because they're not sure that they'll hold that much weight up. So the problem we have is a diminishing revenue stream. As you know, everyone that buys a new car today, you get higher efficiencies out of your car. Instead of 12 and 14 miles to the gallon, many of our cars today that are being made are getting 20 to 30 miles to the gallon. What that means to us as citizens is good. You pump less gas into your car and you go farther. What it means to the DOT is they have less money to operate the department. Currently, they get $1.2 billion a year from the federal government. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is set to expire in May. No promise that there'll be any money whatsoever to send back to the state. That's our tax dollars we send to Washington, and they send it back when they get ready to. Now, the other part of the DOT budget is funded strictly from motor fuel tax. That's about $1 billion a year. So we have $1 billion of state motor fuel tax, and we have $1.2 billion of federal highway motor fuel tax. So you put the two together, you have about a $2.2 billion budget that maintains all the roads in Georgia. Quite honestly, there's not enough money to do what needs to be done. In addition to that, we have congestion problems. If anyone drives through Atlanta anytime during the day, mostly during rush hour, you know what the problems are. It took some folks an extra hour to get here today because of the roads were clogged up this morning. We've got to find ways to unclog our streets in order to keep bringing in good quality jobs. Just announced this week, Mercedes Corporation moving here from New Jersey. We've got State Farm up in the north end of the perimeter. We've got big companies that are looking to move to the southeast because of the climate and because of a good tax structure in our states. We've got to show the business community that we can fix our problems. Now, we can't just arbitrarily go out and raise taxes. Nobody wants to do that. But we got to look at the existing tax structure. Right now, we have about 60% of the revenue that we generate from gas tax is going to things that aren't being put on transportation. An example of that is the sales tax on gas. Currently, there's 3% of the 7% that goes to the state DOT. 1% of that 7% goes to the state general fund, and the remaining 3% goes to your local governments. All of that money needs to be spent on transportation. So if our first goal, and my first goal, is to take that fourth penny that we're putting into the general fund of the state government, roll it back into transportation. That's almost $200 million. So my first goal, before anybody wants to talk about raising taxes, is to get our house in order first. So simply you take the $200 million out of the state budget, put it back in the DOT budget. And then you look at how do you get the local SPLOST monies and the local loss monies that are going to local governments, make sure that that money's being spent on transportation as well. So we have to restructure.
Hold on. I don't want, you got to go, and I just want to make sure all those great things you said, because they were, and I got to remember them. Okay, stay right there. I can edit that. You said local. Would you say? Did I hear you say, for example, a local SPLOST at 1 penny that's at the gas station? Kindly identify it going to transportation?
The 1% SPLOST, the 1% lost, and the 1% school lost. That's on motor fuel only, not when you go buy
at a gas station.
Yes, sir. When you pump gas, 7% sales tax is applied to your purchase.
But one of it is a special purpose tax.
Three of them are local taxes, right, 4 are state. Right, we want to make sure, look at the Constitution, it clearly says that all motor fuel taxes should be dedicated solely to transportation, roads, and bridges. So we want to make sure we ensure that all of our taxes that we're currently paying, we as citizens, if we pay tax on transportation, that money should go to transportation. That is a goal of mine, is to ensure that that's going to transportation.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you realize you may be saying take 3 cents away from local government?
I didn't say take 3 cents away.
You didn't say it, but I'm just saying.
Make sure that the local governments are using that money on their roads as well, just like the state needs to spend this money on the roads as well. So let's take any county in Georgia, they spend money on local roads. Let's make sure that the money they collect from the sale of gas is going back into their roads, because that can maintain a lot of roads as well.
So specific designation.
Correct.
Would I be
dedicated revenues?
Would I be correct in saying that?
Yes.
Not to take it away from the counties, but if they bring in $50,000 in revenue, they need to go gravel the roads, pave the roads, stripe the roads, or whatever.
And I used to be a county commissioner.
Right,
I can tell you that the county I ran, we did that. We spent probably more money on our roads than what we would have collected from the gas pumps on the sale of gasoline. So that's not necessarily something that the local government should be afraid of. In fact, ACCG has been involved with this whole process, and they recognize that that is a concern, and they're on board with helping us to get there. Now, what that could simply mean is you can convert your sales tax to an excise tax, and you don't have to worry about collecting it when the prices go up and down, and it's a more steady, more predictable income because it's based on the volume of gas and not the price of gasoline. So those are just options. I'm not telling you what.
Are you going to try to get a transportation bill that raises revenue that can get things done because they have, or are you going to try to do it without a gas tax?
I would do everything in my power to use our existing resources first. We've got to get our house in order before we ask the taxpayers to give more money. And so those are some of the ideas. There's other ideas on the table. Everything that was in that report was simply an option that people recommended that we look at. For example, tolls. If you drive up 75 or 575 going home today, you're going to see construction beginning on those interstates. And those are reversible managed lanes that are being built. In the near future, you'll be using those reversible lanes as an alternative to driving into Atlanta. You may decide you're in a hurry and you want to get here quicker. That toll lane will allow you to pay a fee and get here as fast as you want, up to the limit of the speed limit, of course. So other people may be in the slower lanes. They don't want to pay to get into the toll lane, so they don't have to. It's an option. So toll lanes are an option. The fourth penny that I talked to you about is an option, $200 million if we can get it into the state budget. And we can look at converting the motor fuel tax from the sales tax. If we convert the sales tax into motor fuel tax, and we can lock it in, and it's a more predictable, steady flow of revenue to the DOT. So that's not a tax increase. That's just restructuring the tax system that we currently have. So there's other ideas as well.
Yeah, but when you say that, you specifically, but I'm not hearing other people talk about, we talk about the counties, you talk about their 3 cents of special purpose tax going to transportation. Counties are already paying more. I mean, a county in one of your districts now is paving a road that's costing them $150,000 matching instead of $50,000 because of the 30%. Now we don't hear any discussion in the transportation. I say that I don't. So I'm not saying you don't, but counties are paying. They refer to it as a penalty for not voting in T-SPLOST.
There's 2 or 3 rules of thumb on that. When I was a commissioner, in order to get that LARP money, and that was the old LARP program, I'm giving you technical terms, but it's an acronym. It's now called the LMIG program.
Right.
The statute was written 4 years ago before I got here. That was part of the TIA. That set the match at 30%. You're right. It was 10% on one, but it was 50% on state aid. So they took the state aid program, abolished the LARP. So you had a 50% match program, you had a 10% match program. They blended the two to make the LMIG, and now it's a 30% match. Counties were already doing the match. I can show you on books in Lumpkin County to where I had that much or more of a match way before the TIA legislation came through, and I wasn't involved with the TIA, so I'm not trying to defend what they did or didn't do down here. I personally think the TIA legislation didn't work. It wasn't structured the right way because the regions were too large. And so there's a lot of things that went wrong as to why that failed, and I wasn't supportive of that as well. So we want to look at a new way to restructure the gas tax. We want to look at how do we fund the needs of the state going forward. How do we continue to be competitive? How do we continue to be the #1 state in the nation to do business? If we don't fix the problems we have now, how are we going to continue to get the big companies in here to bring the good quality jobs here? That's the bottom line. Nobody is standing up saying, let's go raise taxes in Georgia. That's the last thing any of us want to do. But we have an obligation to fix the roads, invest in our infrastructure, and prepare for the future for our young generation to come.
Promise last issue, HB 14. I know we're in the Senate, but HB 14 will have to come over to from the House to the Senate. HB 14 is a bill at this time that would not allow any county, city, or even school system to receive federal funding for grants or loans that were not approved by the General Assembly.
I've never heard the word HB 14 before today. You've surprised me on that one. I don't know who the author is. I don't know anything about the bill. Just from what you've told me concerns me. There's several issues there as a former county commissioner. I don't think that the General Assembly wants to start going through a whole list of grant applications and deciding which one warrants the funding or not. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got all your health departments. Oh, I know, but all your community block grants are federal money, so your health departments are built with that. Your libraries are built with that. I don't know if the General Assembly is in the job of running the executive branch of government. We're the legislative branch of government. So our job here is to set the policies. If there's a problem with the grants not being used properly, we need to look at how do we address that through legislation. We don't need to go over to the governor's office and start telling the governor's staff, who to give these grants to and who not to. You know?
Well,
So
I know we're in the hall of the
I
Senate.
need to learn more about the bill before I would say yea or nay.
All right, we're in the hall of the Senate, and this is a House bill for anybody paying attention today and watching. But it says no local authority, including school districts, shall accept federal funds that include loans and grants in any form for any purpose unless it's been approved expressly and specifically by General Assembly. So if you would, I think there's a lot of people that would like for you to look at that if it comes to this side.
That's a very powerful piece of legislation. Now, let me say this. I personally think there's a lot of things about Washington that are broken. And I can tell you an example. We currently go back to the gas tax. We send 14 cents or 18.4 cents of gas tax to D.C. and we get it back, but we get it back with a lot of strings attached. And that's a problem. We have to do environmental studies. We have to do all the NEPA studies. That's raising the cost of the Davis-Bacon Act. It increases the cost of construction by 20 to 40%. We can't even get a road project started until an Indiana BAT study has been conducted, because an Indiana BAT was possibly found to be brought back to Gilmer County. We've spent $18 million of federal money, our money, studying, looking for these bats over the last 2 years. That's wasted money that needs to be left here in Georgia. So I would say in that argument, that would be a good bill to pass it. Now, in other cases, I can tell you there are plenty of examples of where we wouldn't be too interested in doing that. So that's an interesting piece of legislation. I don't know who authored it, who's behind it. So we'll just have to wait and see if it gets over here before I would say whether I would vote for it or not. In its current form, you never know. When it gets to the floor of the Senate, it may look totally different. So it could be perfected, and it might be a good bill that I would support. So I would just have to say at this time I'll have to defer until I see it.
Okay, I'll end the day. Appreciate you sitting down with me. Something has to happen with transportation, because that's what we're hearing. Something has to happen.
Well, let me ask you this: Do you want to fix it now, or do you want to wait 10 more years and address it? The problem's not going away. We've got to find better ways to utilize our existing resources first. One more example: electric cars. It's a real problem in the future. It's not a problem today. Electric cars are becoming a more of a norm. People buy them for one reason: they're good for the environment, but they're also good because you don't have to put fuel in them. It saves you a lot of money. The problem with that is the people that drive electric cars on our roads aren't paying to help service those roads. We believe in user fees for government services, and I think most conservatives do. So we're looking at how do we get everybody that uses the service to pay for the service equally, level the playing field. And one way to do that is to let people who own the electric cars pay a fee, an annual fee or some kind of a fee in lieu of the motor fuel tax, because they're not buying motor fuel.
Senator Gooch, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I know you got to get back in a couple of days. We'll come back as session's going on and follow these things up and spend some more time.
I look forward to it. Thank you.